سبيل الدموع سبيل مريح تنهدى يا صاحي كي تستريح وبث الدعاء الخفي الصريح.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Amma ba'du, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to our first lesson on Al-Aqida Tahawiyya. Why Al-Aqida Tahawiyya, and why now, in fact? Well, this really came about when somebody contacted me. I think it's South, the website, and also the Islamic hub, or words to that effect. And they approached me just generally raising concerns, and the concerns that they raised were that the times, the society the way it is the understanding of deen is somewhat being confused and misunderstood, and wouldn't it be nice, or it would be good if somebody could speak about that topic. And I was asked if I could address that issue. So what I suggested was, I said, look, let's, rather than just kind of addressing it in some short lectures, it is probably better that we go through a text together. Now, I appreciate there will be numerous, and I expect most of those students that will attend will be somewhat novices in this area, and therefore it'll be maybe a little bit heavy to try to understand it directly from the text. So I don't expect anybody to be going through the Arabic text with me. If they so choose to do so, they can do. But really, however way one wishes to engage with this, it's just important that one engages. That's the key issue here. Now, even though obviously I have quite a busy schedule, for those of you who know me, I felt the importance of this topic was such that I would try to, inshallah ta'ala, dedicate some time where I would make numerous recordings, and then they would be made available on the various platforms on a weekly basis. The aim is, inshallah ta'ala, that on a Sunday afternoon, most likely starting, what are we on now? Probably the first week in November, I would say. Obviously dates will be given when these videos are made available, and we'll try to run it on a weekly basis, inshallah, where whenever I get opportunity I will sit down and I will make some recordings, and then those recordings will be made available. So why did I feel it was important? Well, I feel it's important because the way society, the way liberalism is sort of impacting on so many aspects of life, even when it comes to faith, liberalism is acting on faith as well. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that how we define faith, how we define belief, how we define Islam. There was a time when I was a relatively younger man, or a young man, when Islam was quite clear what Islam was. It was somewhat felt quite monolithic, quite felt like, this was right and everything else was wrong. And that level of certainty that it gave to a person was good. It allowed a person's sort of belief system to fit well and understand what the Sharia required from that person. But as time's gone on, then you see these kind of various kind of reinterpretations of Islam, and the impression that is being given is that there are so many versions of Islam out there, and they're all equal. There's no right or wrong Islam. That Islam can be displayed in so many different ways, however which way you wish to display it. That's what I spoke about, the kind of liberalist lens by which even faith is being analyzed. So that, Islam is something that is you take and you leave what you want from Islam. Islam can be as you want it. So these are the new issues that we have to deal with, both as believers and particularly as scholars. But also, the old, what you could say, the old issues are still there. Even though this reinterpretation is probably not an old issue either, but it's new in the form that it's taking currently. But so even the old issues, for example, the view of a prophet after Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how that definition, the Khatamun Nabiyyin, how that definition is being somewhat eroded. And not only does that have an impact on the concept of finality of prophethood, but even more so, it challenges the interpretation of Islam, because it allows that somebody after Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam can reinterpret the religion. and make claims like, this is no longer compulsory. Excuse me, this is no longer compulsory. This is now changed. So even though it's an old concept, and people claiming to be prophets occurred even in the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's why I said even old kind of ideologies that need to be dealt with. So in a way, excuse me, I seem to have swallowed a horse or something. So even in both those ideas, this new kind of liberalistic attitude towards religion, that Islam is there are so many versions of it. Not only that, there's so many versions of it, you can arguably practice whichever one you choose. They're all adequately equal. There is no right or wrong. These are equal opinions, equal views, and religion is what you make of it. Obviously, these are all false in terms of the fact of Islam. Yes, we do live in a liberal society, and we can choose in what way we practice our faith. Absolutely we can. But we should be under no confusion, or we should be under no misconception that this is what Islam is. Because what Islam is and how we perceive it could arguably be two different things. So that's the kind of backdrop to it. So that's the reason why I decided, and what I suggested to the young man who was in touch with me, is that we go through a reliable, classical, accepted text of Aqida, so that we have what we call the blueprint, the template. We have what is factually Islam, and then we look at our interpretation of it. We look at our view of it. We look at it, how we're viewing it through our lens. Now, everything we're doing which is correct, alhamdulillah, nothing to worry about. But if some of our interpretations, which eventually become beliefs, are wrong, then we need to rectify them. So it's a very important topic. And because it's a very important topic, I reach out to you, my dear student, you're listening to this right now, and say to you that, let's not shy away with using words which can, sometimes we become so PC that we're so scared of using words which may cause offense. And yet other folk aren't too concerned about what language they use, always arguing the concept of freedom of speech in order to, speak of Islam in a very negative way. Let's not, shy away from words like, heaven and hell. Let's not shy away from words like Jannah and Jahannam. These are realities. We cannot just, kind of brush them under the carpet because we feel that there may be uncomfortable conversations that we may have to have with relatives, family members, friends, neighbors. Now, obviously, I'm not advocating that we go out there, and in absolute raw terms, as we call it, and start, banging on doors and sort of going up to our uncle or auntie and saying, oh, by the way, do you want to go to Jahannam? That's not what I'm talking about. So if you misunderstood that, then I'm quick to say that that's not what I'm referring to. What I'm referring to is I'm saying eventually, once we are in that kind of conversation, that we need to have those kind of conversations. They're essential. Okay. For instance, we live in the era of COVID-19, and unfortunately, many of us losing loved ones. And as much as it's an emotional time, as much as it's a difficult time, we have to have difficult conversations with our family members. And for instance, the likes of, are there any qadās of salah that you owe? Are there any fasts that you owe? Are there any, zakat that you owe? Is there anybody that you've, done bad to? Is there anybody you want to make amends with before you leave? This is the reality. Now, people say, well, these are uncomfortable conversations. We don't really want to have these. Well, when are you going to have these conversations? When the person has passed away? A bit late then. When are we going to have these conversations about talking to our loved ones who we would, there's something I read, one of these, I think they're called memes, aren't they? One of these things I read where basically, a lady is asking a sheikh about getting her children up for Fajr. So she says, I struggle to get my children up for Fajr. They're really tired. So I feel, I should call on them once or twice, and if they don't respond, I leave them. Because they must be tired, they've got school in the morning, or they've got got to get up early in the morning, so I just let them be. So the sheikh said, well, okay, what would you do if there was a fire in the house? And she said, well, obviously I'll wake them up. So he said, yeah, but you just told me that they've got school in the morning and they may not be able to get up even though you call on them a few times. She goes, well, if I have to, I'd literally drag them out of their beds and drag them out of the house. She goes, oh, you would you? And she goes, yes, of course I would. I said, well, obviously missing Fajr prayer is like obviously potentially going to Jahannam, and Jahannam, the fire of Jahannam, is considerably worse. So would you not take the same action. Just because it's something in the hereafter, it's not the here and now. So, you know, we've got to kind of look at that. Now, obviously, when we speak about Aqida, we'll be speaking about beliefs. We're not necessarily going to be speaking about A'mal, even though we may kind of touch upon that. And that's a technical discussion that we will have, is how we differentiate between acts and how we differentiate between beliefs. Because beliefs is what we must have as a Muslim. We must believe in certain things, even though it may necessarily not mean that that then translates into acts of good deeds like prayer and fasting. And again, we need to unpack this concept of, you know, not praying and not believing prayer is fard. You know, this, you see, belief. You hear also these kind of, you know, we mix words. So a topic, for example, you know, a sister will ask another sister the question like, do you believe niqab is wajib? And she said, no, I don't believe niqab is wajib. Now, what's this word believe mean? You know, that's not a belief system. And this is why we need to understand, what do we mean by beliefs? What do we believe? And this concept of a view within a madhab, a fiqh view within a madhab. So it's nothing to do with beliefs. So we need to unpack that as to what do we mean by beliefs. And I hope, inshallah, over the coming weeks and months that we have opportunity to do so. Now, I won't necessarily be on every platform in terms of where these videos will be posted. But if there's somehow you can get a message to me or certain questions to me, we may need to explore that. How people, if they wish to ask questions, how that will come back to me. But I think primarily this is going to be one-way traffic, which is that I will, you know, speak to the camera and get out to you folk. So I touched upon that topic about, you know, having these awkward conversations, or as we've made them awkward. They're not awkward. They're a reality. You know, there's fact. You know, we don't avoid having conversations about our futures, do we? We don't avoid having conversations about what our children are going to do in terms of an education or a form of employment. We don't avoid that. We have those conversations. We don't avoid having conversations about who and where our children are going to marry. You know, these are not, you know, we don't avoid it. These are conversations we've got to have. Any mature, any functional family will sit down and have these conversations when it comes to buying a house or anything. So literally every other behavior, human activity, we have those mature conversations. Well, death, according to Muslims, is a reality. And the only people who are going to go to Jannah are Muslims. That's our belief. Now, if that is our belief, that only Muslims will go to Jannah, then shouldn't we ensure that we are Muslims? And shouldn't we ensure that our loved ones are Muslim? And shouldn't we ensure, like the way we wish to protect them in this world, that we would also want to protect them in the next world? Wouldn't we want that? So that's really the kind of you know, backdrop, the motivation, you could say, the impetus behind these series of videos. Now, so what I would do is, in conclusion to that, is invite people. Invite people, share these videos with your friends and family, and invite them. So if you can't have that awkward conversation, then allow me to have that awkward conversation. Because obviously they can't touch me. I'm all the way behind here, this camera here, whereas you'll obviously be sat there. So have that awkward conversation. And let's make these, you know, death is another one. You know, when I spoke earlier about this COVID issue, where people don't want to have these, as they call them, awkward conversations, because they think, is it really the right time that when someone is passing away that we should be concerned about the hereafter? Yes, that is the actual right time. If there, in fact, there could not be a better time to be having those conversations. So let's remove the word awkward from these conversations, and let's have these conversations. And at the end of the day, for those who are loved ones and those who are Muslims or born Muslims, as we use that word, we use that phrase, then they're the ones who we should apply a little bit more pressure, apply a little bit more convincing arguments, whatever. As if we're approaching people who are non-Muslim, for example, then they have a choice. They have a choice. We just got to make a convincing argument. If they believe in what we're offering, good, you know, this is good for them. You know, you benefit in that you will get reward for it, but it's good for them at the end of the day. And if they choose not to, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself has given them that choice, that they're free to choose between whichever they wish. Obviously, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will and what he requires and what he wants, we won't get into that kind of conversation. But my point is that ikhtiyar, there's, you know, that choice that a person has, there will be free will. We can practice and our free will in deciding. So they're two separate parties that we look at. So really it's about that. And these conversations and this whole series will be about what do I believe in? And I've done lots of videos, and I ask those members of the public who are watching to go watch them. I have a scientific background, so I've done videos on evolution, I've done videos on atheism, and I've done videos on also the thing, and also there's lots of material that I've written which argues the case to believe in a creator, which argues the case to believe in an omnipotent, all-powerful, all-knowing being, yani Allah, or the phrase God is used. However, we use his name, Allah. That's the name he's referred to himself with, and we will refer to him by that name. So, and again, I see lots of people kind of avoiding the use of the name Allah. Why would you want to avoid using the name Allah? And they say, well, we want to be kind of more, again, it's this PC thing, we want to be more open to other faiths and whatever. That's fine, absolutely we can. So we use Allah. That doesn't mean my name is Amjad. That doesn't mean I start calling myself, Peter or something when I'm speaking to a non-Muslim, because he might think, sorry, what's your name again? Amjad, or and they can't pronounce my name, or they struggle. That doesn't mean I think, okay, maybe my name is actually a block for people accepting Islam. So what I'll do is I'll call myself Peter from now on. So it's Peter here. All I've done now is I've changed my identity, and the identity that I want to invite them towards is no longer there. So it kind of defeats the object, really. So let's call him Allah. That's who he is. That's his name. So let's refer to him as Allah. So we will say Allah requires you to do this. So then that inquire, okay, we call him God, or we call him such and such, or such and such, or whatever, and you call him Allah. Okay, why do you call him that? And then we can have that conversation. But if we use God, hold on, your religion seems to be really much like the religion I grew up on. Let's just say we're having this conversation with a Christian, and the Christian says, sorry, what do you refer to him? We say we call him God. Oh, okay, we also call him God. Well, fantastic. Okay, and Jesus, what do you call Jesus? And we say, well, we also call him Jesus as well. Oh, okay, that's great. And Abraham, what do you call him? And say, we call him Abraham as well. So hold on a second. So your religion and my religion is pretty much the same, are they? Yeah, they are. Now, what we think is where we think we're being PC, and we think we're being, opening and all the rest of it. What we've actually done is made our religion, or watered down our religion, or reframed our religion. So our religion has become very much like somebody else's religion, say the conversation that we are in, the religion of the Christians. So then why would a Christian think, well, what do I gain from going from my religion to your religion? Because your religion sounds very much like my religion. So we say, yes, we do believe in a God, and there is only one God. His name is Allah. Okay, that's his name. Now, I think the problem is because of all this kind of interfaith work, and also this, coming to one word, let's agree on one word, and all this kind of thing. What we've done is we've lost our kind of dawah side of our religion. It's become very much interfaithy. We all get on with each other and all the rest of it. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for faiths getting on and people of no faiths getting on. We all share this country, we all share this world, and it'd be good if we all got on with each other. But at the same time, and in the same breath, I would say that we also have something which the rest of the world don't have, and that is our faith, and that is our belief in Allah, and that is our belief in heaven and hell, Jannah and Jahannam, and that is our belief in all these other. And you'll see me sometimes switching. So please don't pull me up on that. I am intentionally switching, and the reason why I'm switching is that sometimes we use that language so that there's some familiarity for people who are coming from another faith, so they can hook onto it that, hold on, this guy is speaking so many fancy Arabic words, I don't know what he's talking about. The same teaching, don't they, that 95% of what you're teaching your student, they should already be familiar with. It's only that kind of 5-10% that they're not familiar with, so then they can make that jump. But if, say, for example, you were teaching and 80%, 75% the student was familiar with, and 20-25% they weren't, then for some students that jump is just too big. For quite able students, they can make that jump, but for some students, there's just not enough stuff on the paper for them to make that leap onto this new knowledge that you want to share with them now. So that's the purpose. So I do reach out to you, my brothers and sisters, to share this widely, inshallah ta'ala, and let's have, as we call them, those conversations. I'm going to drop the word awkward from them now, because we made them awkward and they're not awkward. So let's have those conversations. Let's be open with those conversations, and let's talk about them. Some people say, well, yeah, but isn't faith a private affair? Well, not really, because your faith impacts upon the way you live. So yes, it might be a private affair when it comes to ibadat. Yes, we should keep our ibadat private. It's not something to disclose to people that, I was up all night, mashallah, praying tahajjud and reciting Quran, and today I'm going to be giving out food to the poor, and then I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. That's not what I mean by the fact that I'm saying that It's public. It's public in the sense that it has an impact on the way we behave. And what I mean by impact on the way we behave, it impacts on the way we behave in terms of how we speak, how we dress, how we engage with people on the street and things like that. Unfortunately, the manifestations of our faith for the great majority of believers or Muslims is sometimes not too appealing to non-Muslims, whether it be how we look after our areas, the crime rates amongst our youth, the lack of aspirations with regards to education. And these are, people will argue are those who are kind of anti-Islam or Islamophobic will argue it's the faith which brings that about. And again, if you've seen many of my writings, I've argued that it's got nothing to do with that. It's the socio-economic background that people are coming from. But again, I digress. So that's what I wanted to set out in today's episode. But I also wanted to get students ready. So whenever I start a new dars with anyone, I speak about three things, and I speak about them in reverse order. Don't ask me why. I've always used this reverse order because I think the impact of finishing on the most important thing at the end is the kind of taste which gets left. When you're eating something and you eat something first, and then you eat something second, and then you eat something third, the flavor which gets left on your mouth or on your palate, and what you remember more is the third one rather than the first one. So let me go through them. The first one obviously is that this is ilm. Okay, this is ilm, knowledge. Okay, knowledge is important, and I'm not going to necessarily quote you hadith and ayats, even though I have them written here, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala differentiates between alladhina ya'lamuna walladhina la ya'lamun, those who know and those who don't know. And there's many, al-ilmu nur. The one dua which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches to the Anbiya is Qul Rabbi zidni ilma, increase me in knowledge. And there's many others. Innamal ulama warathatul anbiya. Faman, and then right at the end, Faman akhadahu akhadha bihadhin wafir. That person who takes ilm takes a huge bounty. What they're taking is immeasurable. So this is ilm. So you are now seekers of ilm. Talabul ilm. You're seeking knowledge. And there's a purpose to your seeking knowledge. I share many platforms with academics, and I have conversations with academics, and I find that they seek knowledge for the sake of seeking the knowledge. For them, the knowledge is the matlub. The knowledge is what is sought, and that's not in our Sharia. Knowledge is just a means to reach Allah, or to reach an understanding of Allah. So in order to, and and it doesn't stop there either. Many reach to a point. Many non-Muslim physicists and astrophysicists who look out into the big world and think, wow, not even the big world, rather the big universe, and they go, wow, there's a creator, there's a designer. So it reaches them onto the door of calling out to Allah, and instead of then going the next step, they pull back. So what we're supposed to do then is go to the next step. Once we reach the wow, chin drop moment, we're supposed to then worship Allah, realize our uselessness and our kind of minor, if any, role whatsoever that we think we play on the planet and in the universe, and realize who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And then ibadat should follow. So I see, when you look around, some people who unfortunately are not even seeking ilm. Then there are those people who are seeking ilm for the sake of seeking ilm, just so that they've got loads of ijazas, and I've studied with this sheikh, that sheikh, the other sheikh, and all the rest of it, and that's it. It just kind of stops there. And then you got others who kind of reach even that point where they're in awe and absolute amazement at the creation of Allah, but it doesn't get them to then take the next step and start worshipping that creator. And really, that's the step we want to get to. So ilm is first. You are, mashallah, alhamdulillah, may Allah accept you and may Allah accept me, now students of ilm. The next one is waqt, time. Now many people say, I don't have time, time everybody has. We all have 24 hours. You look around, my 24 hours, your 24 hours, your next door neighbor's 24 hours, the Imam Sahib in the masjid 24 hours, the great Maulana, the Mufti, the big Sheikh, all these people have 24 hours. The difference is what they do in their 24 hours and what we do in our 24 hours. So we all have that time. We're all humans, we all sleep, we all eat. Okay, and most of us have families, so we all have wives or husbands, depending on which we are, and we have children. So we all have, and then we all have jobs, we all have responsibilities to earn. So everybody's doing the same kind of thing. It's not that one person is like living as an angel. And in fact, this was the argument that was put, that, we all have jobs. This would have been the argument that would have been put if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had sent angels down, is they would have argued that, oh, well, You know, you're angels. You don't eat, you don't sleep, you don't have family. You know, we have to do this, whatever, whatever. But we made another excuse, haven't we? Instead of saying, oh, well, you know, we're human, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was human, we say, oh, he was a Nabi, he was Ma'soom, he was up there, so we've now given ourselves excuses. Then the next thing we do is when someone says, okay, fair enough, then at least practice what the companions did. Oh, those guys, companions, come on. There's a world, and Zamin Asman Farak, as we say, there's a, you know, ground and earth, there's, you know, as much space as there is between the sky and the earth, that's how much there is between us and the companions. Come on, really, we can't. So really, they just kind of bring it down, meaning that we are lesser humans, therefore expectations should be less. And once you diminish your expectations, once you diminish your aspirations, then as a result, what do you expect? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. One of the arguments that's put with, you know, the lack of attainment within the BAME community is lack of aspirations, because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you feel that you're not going to get your GCSEs, then there's not going to be a shock and a surprise when you don't get your GCSEs. If, however, you believe you can get a PhD, or you can do this, or you can do that, then surprise, surprise, you get that. If, for example, you think that you're never going to get a job, then it's not going to come as a surprise when you don't get a job. So it's about these aspirations which need to come about. And we're speaking particularly over this series is about our aspirations in our faith, and then eventually in our practice. Because even though our main area is going to be about faith, we're obviously going to touch upon practice as well. But, you know, really it's about Aqida. So al-waqtu min dhahab wa fidda, you know, time is money. You know, that's the phrase, and that's there is that we need to use time. If you don't use time, then time will just go and time will use you. So have a timetable. Timetable things in. When you're going to do this, when you're going to do that, how you're going to do this. Get it all organized, okay? Not just about the studies that you're going to do with myself, but also with anybody else you're doing studies, with your home life, with your personal life. Time it. Don't let time dictate to you what to do. You have a plan. Okay, have a plan. This is what I'm going to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You know, whether it's reciting Quran, whether it's praying, whether it's Qāḍī that you have to clear, whatever it may be, have a timetable and then use that productively. And finally, like I said, which should have come first, but it's the last taste on your palate, is niyyah. Innamal a'malu binniyat. You hear it so many times from the mimbar. It's become so mashhoor, you know. One would think, you know, literally even a small child would know that narration now, that intentions, or the reward of intentions, are based on one's, let me rephrase that, the reward of actions rather is based upon one's intentions. Why are you studying this? Okay, what's your intention? So clear that out from the word go. You know, you don't want to put hours and hours and hours into this with the wrong intention, or just to say, oh, I'm studying with Mufti Amjad, or I'm studying, you know, Al-Aqida al-Tahawiyya, and, you know, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that, so I can debate with you, and I can tell you this, and I can tell you that, or so that I'm better than you, whatever. Have the right intentions. Your intentions are to understand what your beliefs you must have in order for you to believe in them. And eventually, inshallah ta'ala, beyond that is to initiate your studies so you can then move on. It's also your intention should be to then share this with family and friends, so that they can, if you can't articulate this argument or don't have the ilm, then they can at least have it direct, so to speak, from the horse's mouth. And that's not speaking ill of myself in any way, shape or form, inshallah. So in that way, they get that. And thirdly, it's your work of dawah. Remember, dawah is why you're here for. In fact, when you speak to the elders, one of the arguments that you can make hijrah for is for dawah purposes. Now, if our elders made hijrah and we are carrying on that same principle, that's why we find ourselves in the UK, the US, or any minority situation, then we must be doing dawah. If we're not doing dawah, then we've got to scratch our heads and think, okay, what's going on? So where is our dawah? How are we calling people towards this religion? In what way are we calling people to this religion? So it's very important. So just to finish things off for today, inshallah, I knew the first session would be slightly longer, and so attend all lessons. Advantage is they're recorded, so you can attend them in your own time. You can repeat them, listen to them again, make notes, do whatever you think for you to get a better understanding, inshallah ta'ala. And I hope, inshallah, that we can then, at the end of this course, at the end of these studies, first of all, develop our beliefs, so that our beliefs are sound, according to Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and that's another phrase that we will discuss inshallah in due course, and also that this becomes a starting point for your studies in the future. So may Allah accept it from us, Ameen. So I'm going to aim for around 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes per session. I think that's probably long enough for people who aren't necessarily used to studying, and that will be apt time. Even then you can only watch 5 minutes, and I guess how long can you listen to my voice for without falling asleep? So maybe 5 minutes and then come back to it another time and watch 5 minutes again. It's going to be once a week, so really you just got to watch 20 minutes in 7 days. So that should be possible, inshallah ta'ala. And for others, you can listen to it again and watch it again and whatever else. So that's important to do. And it'll be once a week, inshallah. It'll be posted on the various platforms that the individuals will be posting on. We will try to post it on our platforms as well, and when I mean ours, I mean the Darul Ulum Zaytuniya. We have the Telegram, the WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, and all the rest of it, inshallah. So we will share it as widely as we can possibly share it. So that's one thing. Secondly, share it with friends and family so that they do it. Maybe even get together in your social bubble, rule of 6 and all the rest of it. And or maybe form a little class. Maybe you can get 6-7 of you, 6-7 sisters come together, not literally come together, but through a Zoom or something, so you can watch it all at a certain time and then discuss it on Zoom afterwards. Find a way to kind of enliven it a little bit. We are social creatures, we are sociable, and we like to be together in something. So sometimes there are very few people that are lone wolves that can just do self-motivate and get on with things themselves without necessarily support or encouragement from others. But the great majority of us are sociable creatures. We prefer to do something together with somebody else, so we're on the journey with somebody else. So then that might be an ideal. Maybe have a WhatsApp group, 6-7 of you, close friends, family, whatever, so the video gets posted on there, and then you discuss what you learned from it and what make it into whatever you want to make it, inshallah. We will hopefully keep producing them as time goes on, and I hope that by the end of it all, inshallah, that we have clarity in our understanding. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our efforts. May He make it a means to make our beliefs sound, and as a result enter us into His mercy and His Jannah. Ameen. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.